Hello, my name is Seth Fisher and welcome to my astronomy final. What I wanted to do for my astronomy final was we had to correct a piece of misinformation, and I wanted to pick something that was really hard. So I said that I was going to help discredit the belief that the moon landing was fake, and I was going to use the recent Artemis 2 missions and the upcoming Artemis 3 and 4 missions to do so. Now, I was under the personal pretense that I believed that an underlying secret reason for these missions was to actually shut up these naysayers who don't believe that we went to the moon, 60 years ago. I don't necessarily think I was right. While that may be an underlying factor in what led this mission to being done, it was more so to push science and to push humanity once more to prove that it's something that we could do again. So it's less about landing on the moon this time and more about showing that we have the ability to go around the moon and to orbit it and to handle things in a very different way than we've done before, especially with the previous space missions that have ended in disaster. What I was going to do was I was going to try to use the positioning of the stars in the photos that we have seen of the moon, the flag on the moon, and cross-reference them to any sort of photo where the moon, the flag on the moon would be even visible for just one frame, 1 second. However, when Artemis was orbiting the moon, Artemis 2, there was not a single frame in which the flag was visible. What I was going to do was use logic and deduction to say that since this mission didn't land on the moon, if we were orbiting around the moon this time and saw any evidence that there was a flag on the moon, that would be irrefutable proof that we landed on the moon 60 years ago, because we wouldn't have had the opportunity to sneak down onto the moon and put a flag this time because we didn't land on the moon. Ultimately, unfortunately, Artemis 2 was unable to prove my point in that. But I strongly believe that Artemis 3 and Artemis 4, when we return to the moon's surface, we will once again make contact with those flags, and I believe that through logic and deductive reasoning, that's irrefutable proof that we landed on the moon 60 years ago. At least that's how I see it works. And to even further it, we'll be able to cross-reference, like I said, where the stars are in the distance to the photos that have happened of the moon, and as long as it's taken in the same direction, I'm fairly certain that we will be able to prove what I'm trying to prove. There is a second part of this video. I just need to give my camera a moment to charge. Hello, everybody. I am back. And I just now want to continue a little bit speaking on what Artemis 2 actually represents in comparison to my original understanding of the mission. So my research throughout this consisted of learning about Artemis 2 and what it actually represented, and that's what made this assignment difficult for me, because I came to the realization that my initial belief and my way of deducing and disproving the theory that the moon landing was false wasn't necessarily going to be possible. However, with the upcoming missions, I actually thoroughly believe that this method that I've constructed in my brain, with using the star positions as well as the photo of the flag on the moon in comparison to a present, current, up-to-date photo, might actually be beneficial. The only thing is that it would need to be taken the same positioning in orbit and rotation, so that makes things slightly more difficult. However, I feel like we would account for that with whatever mission would be being done to follow this out. Particularly, I believe it to be Artemis 3, and I believe 4 is kind of more based on furthering what we have done once we are there. So it does not prove that we went to the moon, but what it does is it proves that we can go to the moon. And I think ultimately that sorry, I'm kind of blanking. I think that ultimately that is more important than using empirical evidence, is to show to the world that it's possible. In a world where modern day, there's a lot of people who don't believe things that are told to them, and that's understandable given how media is misconstrued and stuff, but when it comes to scientific evolution, I believe that we should all believe what we're being told, because that is for the betterment of our society and mankind, and even in negative connotations where maybe science is going in ways that we believe that it shouldn't, it is important for us to at least know that. So now that that tangent has concluded, I just want to say that Artemis 2 isn't technically proof that we landed on the moon 60 years ago, but Artemis 3 probably will be. So my mission in this assignment of using Artemis 2 to disprove the moon landing was ineffective. But what I did learn throughout the duration of this is a lot about the Artemis missions and a lot about the Apollo missions, and I think that my method of how we could not just empirically but logically prove that we landed on the moon when we first did will be happening in the upcoming 2 Artemis missions. So, thank you very much for tuning in, and it's been a wonderful class, and thank you for listening to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.